Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, I am going to mute everyone just so we can keep that background noise maybe at bay so we can hear Rachel the whole time. Thank y'all for coming. I'm Julia Carty. I'm a Diamond Ambassador. I think this call has both my team and Rachel's team on here tonight. So we're just glad you came. Rachel is one of my favorite people in Plexus that I've met through Plexus. She's a dear friend. And one reason I love Plexus and our teams are that we really do have that one Plexus culture. And I read a book recently called Street Finder. And if you've never read that book, I would highly recommend it. But it really talks about working with your strengths. So if you're on my team, you know that product education is not my strength. So what I do is I go find my friend who probably knows more about the products than anyone else in Plexus, and I ask her, hey, come do a call for me. And we kind of swap our strengths with each other, but that's what's wonderful. So I'm really excited that y'all get to hear from her. She's going to talk about our three newest or reformulated products tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Rachel, and this is being recorded, and I did remember to hit record, but and if we have time, maybe ask some questions at the end, but we'll see what our time looks like. So go ahead, Rachel.
I don't know why every time you have to unmute yourself, it's like you're doing it for the first time, and you're like, how do I do this? Hey, y'all, I'm so excited to be with you guys tonight. I just totally echo what Julia said about how important it is to find people in this business. You don't need to feel like you've got to be an expert in every area, and you certainly don't have to be me. This is a side hobby and passion for me to research the way that I do, but in no way do we expect that you would have to know all of this stuff in order to be successful at the business. So I just want to begin tonight by kind of saying I'm going to be covering the three products, but I'm going to be, I think somebody, Julia, can you mute everybody? There we go. But I'm also going to be kind of weaving and tying this into the concept that corporate has given us of what our products do in terms of weeding, seeding, feeding, and protecting. Because I think that oftentimes when we kind of stare down the list of product knowledge or the list of ingredients, it can become really intimidating. But I think what they have given us as a way to explain what our products do for people is so simple. It's such a simple, like almost word picture of the way to explain it. And so I'm going to spend most of my time tonight talking about the three new products, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that very important first step of weeding. And I know that most of you guys probably already know a lot about that step. That step is our ProBio 5 and is our BioCleanse, which is part of our existing regimen of triplex. But because I get so many questions, literally this question comes up on a daily basis, how do I explain to somebody why they need ProBio 5 and why they need and why they need Vital Biome? Because it does seem confusing at first. Why would I need two different probiotics? But truthfully, there are two probiotics that work in vastly different ways. So that first step in our system is the weeding system. That is your ProBio 5. What sets ProBio 5 apart from Vital Biome is that ProBio 5 was never really intended to repopulate the gut. It didn't have a high enough colony forming unit, or CFU, had actually a relatively low one, which is why we would continue to tell people, okay, start with one, and that they could work their way up to 4 or even 6 or 8 in order to try to get that colony forming unit up. But truly, this probiotic was intended to weed out intestinal yeast and bad microbes. We've trained from day one that it was a 3-in-1 system because it had probiotic strains, but it also had digestive enzymes, and it had a very potent fungal killer in it. But as I mentioned before, it's really not enough to repopulate or colonize the gut. So if you think about it, this is like your frontline soldiers that are going in and are eliminating all of the bad guys. And once you've sort of secured the perimeter, you've gotten rid of the bad guys, it's death by pathogens, then you can add in the good guys that are going to repopulate the gut. The enzymes that are in ProBio 5 work to break down something called biofilm. And biofilm is basically a protective outer layer or shell for the bad bacteria. And the enzymes that are in ProBio 5 literally dissolve that or shred it. And then the Saccharomyces boulardii that is in ProBio 5 is a beneficial yeast that works as a fungal killer. So that's where we're always going to start, by talking to people about the need to weed out the bad stuff. And for those of you that are avid gardeners, or, have a husband that is really passionate about taking care of the lawn, you would never go in to your garden at the beginning of the season and just start planting new plants alongside weeds. No, you get rid of all the weeds first. You eliminate all of those. You sort of prepare the soil, and then you start planting your garden. You start planting your flowers or whatever. It's also important to remember that the BioCleanse is an integral part of this weeding step as well, because it doesn't do you any good if you kill off all the bad stuff, but the body isn't eliminating properly. So ProBio 5 and BioCleanse are always going to need to be companion products, because the ProBio 5 is going to kill off the bad stuff, and the BioCleanse is what is going to remove the harmful substances. If you've got somebody, this is an important conversation to have as you are talking to new people and onboarding them. As much of TMI as it may be, it's really important to ask them about their bowel movements. Do they have regular daily bowel movements? Because if they're not, then you're going to want to get them going on BioCleanse first. Have them going, at least once or twice per day before you start adding in ProBio 5. And I think sometimes we just let people kind of, okay, here's the product. And it can be confusing because the label is often different than the regimen that we recommend. But make sure that they are having those regular daily bowel movements before you start ProBio 5. So I'm going to move really quickly now into seed, because I want to talk about Vital Biome. So Vital Biome is our new probiotic. Like I said a minute ago, this is not in place of ProBio 5, but in addition to ProBio 5. So I mentioned before that ProBio 5 had a relatively low CFU count of 2 billion. Sorry, I'm confusing myself here. Vital Biome is at 20 billion CFU in one pill. So that is a significant increase in the number of good guys that you are putting into your gut. And whereas ProBio 5 is there to be the getting rid of the bad stuff, this is all about repopulating and recolonizing the gut. So we've gotten rid of all the bad guys. Now we're going to put back in the good guys. One of the things that they mentioned in our training session at convention, and that I've seen mentioned several times since then, and this is really, really important, is that it is it's what we would consider to be a real dose, clinically studied or documented amount of colony forming units. So a lot of times within the supplement industry, they makers of sort of lesser than or cheaper supplements will say, oh, this particular supplement has been shown to help with this particular ailment. But they don't want to spend the money to use the actual clinically documented dose where relief was found or where benefit was gained. And so they just say, hey, we're using this product and it's beneficial for this, but they're not actually providing the actual level of that supplement where success was achieved, if that makes sense. So with Vital Biome, the specific number of colony forming units that is in it is at a clinically documented level where success was shown in all of the claims that we make about it. So if we're telling people, that that it helps to reduce anxiety, that it helps with gastrointestinal distress, that it helps to stabilize our stress hormones, then it is because this was the level of probiotic and combination of probiotic where those symptom relief benefits were found. And so I think that that's really awesome, and it's a really great talking point or selling point that these are clinically documented levels of probiotics in order to make the claims that we are in terms of its anti-anxiety benefits, and all of the other benefits, the mood stabilization, the reduction in irritability and anger. And so my caution to you guys is this, especially for people who have been on, because one of the things that I'm seeing a trend as I'm getting questions about these products is that, we've had some people that they're just now starting these products and they're doing great on them. And there's some of us, some of you maybe, that have been on our older products for 3 years or longer, and you've been really stable. And you maybe felt like you've taken a step or two backwards since you introduced these new products. I want to encourage you that supplements do not work as quickly as medications do. So supplements typically have to build up in your system for a while. It's one of the reasons that we tell people with ease and nerve to start with a loading dose for a period of time, and then they can go to just the regular daily, recommendation. And so if that is you, if you're somebody that you're like, man, I was feeling so good on the products and now I feel like I'm struggling a little bit, don't be discouraged. Understand that we introduced 3 new products in a relatively short period of time. From the time that we had Big Reveal to the time that we got Vital Biome and X Factor at convention was not even a 4-week period of time. And so we've changed a lot. We've changed a lot really quickly. And everything that we've changed has had a significant impact on our gut health. And when you impact gut health, good or bad, really, but when you are making significant changes to the microbiome, to the population of your gut, it is going to manifest itself pretty much everywhere in your body. So I've had people say, I actually am feeling more tired on Vital Biome, or I'm actually feeling, like it's made me grouchier than I was on Vital Biome. It doesn't mean it's not working. It may mean that we need to adjust your timeline of how quickly you are jumping into these products. So with New Slim, and I'm going to move on to that in just a second because that's the feeding aspect of this. But with New Slim, when we got it, we were all so excited about it that some of us jumped in and were taking 2 sticks per day. And then it was like, whoa, Nelly, what is going on here? And I know some of you may be able to read between the lines on what I'm talking about there. But we kind of maybe need to move at a slower pace. I will tell you that I am starting every new customer off, or even, inactive ambassadors who came back, on a half stick of the New Slim. I think that it is better to move slowly with these products. So my recommendation to you guys as you are getting new customers is start them off on, continue with what we've always done, which is to start them off on Triplex, start them off on that schedule of BioCleanse for a couple of days, then add in the ProBio 5. There's a graphic floating around out there somewhere that I'll try to find and send to you, Julia, if you don't have it. That's kind of a new way of onboarding the products. But I'm not starting anybody off on Vital Biome right away if they haven't been on Triplex already. And it's, sometimes people are so eager to try something new, but it really is. I want you to go back to, and this is the reason why I covered the weeding aspect of this. And my goal with this is really just to give you guys, 1 to 3 sentences that are kind of like talking points that you would have as you're discussing. And you may have somebody that's like, no, I just want to try the new stuff. I want you to go back to that analogy that I gave you about, well, if you were planting your garden this year, would you just leave the weeds in there and start putting in good plants? And any reasonable person is going to say, no, absolutely not. So you've got to go back to that step, that very first step of weeding out the bad stuff. So next step, seeding. We've covered the vital biome. Now let's talk about feeding. The feeding aspect of this weed, seed, feed regimen comes from the new Slim. Again, some of the benefits of it, it's been clinically demonstrated to promote weight loss. It's been clinically demonstrated to show significant growth in good microbes, specifically lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. Lactobacillus increased by 365 times and bifidobacteria by 290 times. And I want to make sure that you're understanding that when we say 365 times, that means a 36,500% increase in that bacteria. Or 290 times, that was a 29,000% increase in bifidobacteria. And of course, Akkermansia, the one that we know has some bearing on metabolism and weight loss, that was a 25,000% increase in Akkermansia. And so one of the things about Akkermansia to understand is that, if you look at somebody that is pretty lean, that, is not carrying weight around their middle in particular, they probably already have a fairly healthy level of Akkermansia. But Akkermansia has been shown to be found in very small populations in anybody who is really struggling with their weight, or especially people who are obese. So being able to tell them that they're going to have a 25,000% increase potentially in those beneficial bacteria is huge. So what did they change exactly in the new Slim? By and large, y'all, the recipe stayed exactly the same. It still has the same chromium polynicotate. It still has the alpha lipoic acid, still has the Garcinia cambogia in it. The major significant changes were they removed, so it used to be sweetened with 2 different plant-based sweeteners, stevia and lohan. They removed the lohan. They lowered the amount of stevia that was in it, which is why it doesn't taste as sweet or even have that kind of bitter aftertaste that original Slims sometimes had. And then they swapped out the polydextrose. I know lots of us got questions from crunchy green people all the time about polydextrose. Polydextrose is like an anti-caking agent, and when they took it out and substituted it with the XOS, that is the reason that it can mix so much quicker now. It can be mixed in cold water, and it doesn't have that clumping effect anymore. So that's another one of the benefits of the XOS. So let's talk about the XOS right now, because that's, what we've all been so excited about. And here's the thing. You could have Slim on its own, this new Slim on its own without the XOS, or you could take a product that was just XOS only. If you did either of those things, you wouldn't have seen this significant increase in these beneficial bacteria. It's the magic that happens between the polyphenols that are in Slim, that are in the other ingredients in Slim, and the XOS. That is where these significant increases in good bacteria came from. And that's part of the reason that we are able to apply for a patent on this, because nobody else is going to be able to have this. Nobody has our Slim recipe and the XOS. And it's really the combination of those 2 things that are yielding such dynamic results. Another thing to know about XOS, because there's a lot of prebiotic prebiotic fibers that are out there. Most of them are derived from something called inulin, which actually comes from chicory. I know you deep south people know what chicory is. But XOS is actually, it's derived from the ascorbic acid that is in corn. So it does contain corn. However, based on the information that I'm getting from products and also just based on kind of ambassador info, is that we have people who have like corn intolerances that are doing just fine on the new Slim, because it's sort of it's like when you refine something, it's not like full-blown corn that they're getting. So I want to throw that out there. But one of the great things about the XOS, and this kind of goes back to that garden analogy that we've been talking about, is that XOS only feeds the good bacteria that are in your gut. All the other prebiotic fibers that are out there on the market as of now are not intelligent enough to only feed the good. So you're feeding, if you're taking a prebiotic other than XOS, yes, you are feeding your good bacteria, but you're also feeding your bad bacteria. And that is like putting Miracle-Gro on weeds. So why would you do that, right? We only want to feed the good stuff. It's because of that, though, where we are having people who, when starting the new Slim, and this is why I'm advising starting people off really slow, is that when you start to only feed the good guys, you're starving off the bad ones. And not only are you only feeding the good bacteria, but now they are multiplying and they are populating and they are growing and they're sort of crowding out all of the others. And when that happens, people experience, it's a term that we throw around a lot in Plexus, but that's when people experience what we call die-off or a Herx reaction. And die-off happens when those bad bacteria are being killed, they're being starved, they're being destroyed, and they release in their sort of like final parting move, they release toxins into our systems. And those toxins are what can make us experience the negative feelings associated with die-off, which can be anything from feeling really run down, feeling like you're coming down with the flu or a cold. This can be with a low-grade fever or without one. Body aches, muscle aches and pains, problems with mood, skin issues, even a resurfacing of some things that maybe you had gained control over with Plexus previously. This is just another level of die-off. It's a deeper level of killing off the bad guys. So that is the feeding aspect of the new Slim. So we've covered weed, we've covered seed, we've covered feed. Now we're going to talk about protect. And so that's why I want to talk about X Factor Plus. And just to kind of point out, because one of the things that's coming up a lot is, well, what are the main differences between X Factor, original X Factor, and X Factor Plus, and what would be the reasoning for keeping somebody on one versus the other? So what I see as one of them, it's a change, but I don't believe it to be a significant one, is that the original X Factor, we always talk about how it had aloe in it, and it contained the whole aloe plant. So it had both the inner gel and the outer skin of the aloe plant. The new X Factor Plus only contains that inner gel. And the reason for that is that after exhaustive amounts of research, almost every single study comes back and concludes that the vast majority of the healing benefits of aloe are in the gel and not in the skin. So that's why we moved towards that. In addition, one of the things when I was at corporate this fall for some training, I had the opportunity to visit with Dr. Zhang, who is basically over all of our products now. And he had kind of hinted then that that they were reformulating X Factor. And the reasoning was that it was not a very well-rounded multivitamin. It was a really good B complex vitamin. And if you look at the old label, you will find that it is primarily B vitamins that it had, but it was lacking some key nutrients. It didn't contain any minerals. So some people felt like they still needed to supplement with some kind of mineral support. And so what they did in this reformulation is they kept all those high potency B complex vitamins. They kept it methylated by using methylfolate and methyl B12, which we are learning, more and more how huge that is. But they switched to the most bioavailable and bioabsorbable forms of all of these vitamins and all of these minerals. So they opted for what we call the chelated versions of certain minerals, which means that the body is better able to assimilate and absorb them because it's in its most natural form versus the body having to take something synthetic and turn it into what it, actually needs. It now has 100% or more of the recommended daily allowance of vitamins and minerals. So it's got 19 vitamins in it now. And in addition to the minerals that they added in, it has 15 naturally occurring trace minerals. Some of the some of the product claims that we can make on this is that people will see an improvement in mood, in clarity, in concentration. Believe it or not, even though I know that for me, when I started Original X Factor, I saw a significant change in my energy. But I didn't know until I got a visit from compliance that I actually couldn't make an energy claim on X Factor because it hadn't been studied to have that benefit. Well, this new X Factor has, so we now can shout from the rooftops that it boosts our energy levels and it helps with metabolism. It also works to increase the good gut microbes. And so it really is, we have this complete gut protecting system now with what we already had in Triplex, what we've added, by the changes that they've made in Slim, what we have now with Vital Biome, and then what we have with X Factor Plus. So that's about all that I have on the new products. I think that there have been some questions. Do you want to shoot some of those my way, Julia?
Yes. And I'll just kind of start from the beginning.
Okay.
I'm going to use a little different terms. If someone has an upset stomach daily, should you start with Probio 5 or BioCleanse? Or stay away from BioCleanse?
The interesting thing about BioCleanse, it's probably the most highly individual product that I think Plexus has, because there are people like myself, I cannot take more than one BioCleanse a day, or it actually causes me to become constipated. There are people like Julia that take 6 and they do just fine. And so I think oftentimes, especially if we have customers coming to us that are struggling with constipation, we just start jump in there, girl, take all the BioCleanse, and then they just get miserable. It really is important that you kind of progress slowly with it. Now, if you're somebody that has the opposite problem of you're going too much, then what seems to be the consensus of the people that I've talked to who struggle with like IBS and other like chronic digestive issues that cause you to go to the bathroom all the time is that it is wise to be on Probio 5 for a while until things sort of solidify, for lack of a better term. And then you can add in BioCleanse slowly or even as needed.
Okay. People have asked, when I say clinically studied, is the clinical studies from an outside source?
Yes. We did hire a third party to do that. And I'm just as guilty of this. There's a vast difference between, we kind of use the terms clinical studies and clinical trials interchangeably, and they really are two very different things. Our studies were in vitro studies, which means they were performed in a laboratory setting. They were not conducted on human beings, whereas a clinical trial would be. And they, a lot of the information that we have on the ingredients came from individual papers and not necessarily one big paper that was written about this. We have not been given full access to the trials yet, and it is my understanding that they may sort of be ongoing. And so I wish that I had a better answer for you on how to access that.
So is it okay to take Vital Biome with an antidepressant?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going down this list. So when people start the Vital Biome, because I've heard this a good bit, and so this particular person's been on it for 2 weeks and they have upset stomach. I mean, push through it. I mean, would that be just push through it?
And you may, like, I mean, there again, it becomes the question of, is it, I'm assuming that they're not just taking Vital Biome, if they're taking other products too. It may be less that it's the Vital Biome that is causing the stomach upset, but it is the combination of New Slim and Vital Biome, and you may find that you need to back down to a half stick of Slim and to kind of get you over the hump.
And I'm throwing this question in there because I've got it a few times on my team page. Do you have a ideal time? I mean, I know what I've read to take Vital Biome and the new X Factor.
Gosh, there's so many variables with this. I mean, ideally, if we do what corporate tells us to, we take Vital Biome first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and we wait like 30 minutes before we do anything else. There are people that have said that they felt like it made them more tired. They switched it to nighttime, and they've done great on it. So I think that there's not a one-size-fits-all regimen for all of us. I mean, think about it. We're all very individual. We all have different health needs, health concerns. I think the most important thing is that we remember to take it. And so as far as X Factor Plus goes, the biggest thing with X Factor Plus is that you really need to have some food on your stomach, or you could potentially end up, like, if you've ever had that taking vitamins on an empty stomach thing before, it's pretty miserable. I'm taking mine at lunchtime because I need to space it out from my thyroid meds, and I take those in the morning.
Okay, thanks. What about vitamin K and vitamin A and X Factor Plus for pregnant or people trying to conceive women?
This is a really, really good, and it's one of the things I had in my notes and I forgot to mention, so I'm glad somebody asked that. Obviously, you want to run anything like when you're pregnant by your doctor or your pharmacist. There have been some concerns expressed about how much vitamin A is in it during the first trimester. It appears to be perfectly safe in the second and third trimester, but again, we've had pregnant girls on our team where the doctor's been like, looks great, go ahead, and we've had some that have said something else. So that's one where I really would just have to tell you to defer to your doctor. The concern with vitamin K is more for people who are on blood thinners, because vitamin K actually helps your blood to clot. So if you are, are you kind of like shooting yourself in the foot if you're taking something that actually helps your blood to clot more, but you're also on blood thinners? That is a great question to run by a pharmacist, because they're going to be able to look at the level of vitamin K that is in X Factor Plus and know right away if it's going to be problematic or not.
And
the benefit of them having added vitamin K to it is that there's a really significant relationship between vitamin D and vitamin K. Vitamin K really helps vitamin D absorb better. And so it's a great addition for, the general population, but we need to use caution with people who are on blood thinners.
This is a good question. I run into this. If someone goes regular to the bathroom and they have no trouble with bathroom, how do you convince them they need the BioCleanse? What other benefits would you say?
Oh, well, I mean, I think just the things that we've always talked to people about the fact that it helps to, oxygenate that area, that it helps to detoxify. I mean, just because you're going to the bathroom every day doesn't mean you're a champ at detoxifying. And so I would really play up those benefits that, our bodies, because we're so bombarded with toxins, we need to aid and assist our body in the process of detoxification every single day. And then to also talk about the benefits of magnesium. I mean, at the end of the day, BioCleanse is a magnesium-based product, and you can be going to the bathroom every day, but still be dealing with muscle aches and pains, with anxiety, with other issues that magnesium can be beneficial in helping to relieve.
Several people keep asking this. How do you save the other half of your Slim?
Oh, you just dump a little bit of it out and then just twist it.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I've never recommended someone take half a Slim. So that's interesting to hear that that's what you do now. To start there.
Just to start for the first 3 or 4 days and see how they do. And then you can move them up from there. I mean, if you check in with them at 3 to 4 days and they're still miserable, stick with half a stick. Make for sure don't let anybody start out with 2 sticks of the new Slim per day.
Can you overpopulate the gut with good bacteria?
No, because you continually they have a life cycle. And so you're always going to have, that's one of the interesting things I've been reading about too, is how quickly you can start to see a change in the gut once you start adding in probiotics. And you can start seeing a change literally within a few days' time. But no, you can't overpopulate the gut.
Okay.
Because you have to remember there are always going to be things. I mean, none of us are probably ever going to go through life not needing to take another round of antibiotics, or not eating, something that wasn't healthy, or not being exposed to, some kind of toxin.
Would the grapeseed extract in Probio 5 interact with blood thinners? You know that?
This has come up a lot, and we really have never had any issue with it. We've had several, Plexus, there are several pharmacists that are Jewels, and they've never expressed concern about that. But again, if you've got somebody that's nervous about it, pharmacists are usually your go-to to ask that question.
Okay, I just saw an interesting one. Okay, and this is a good question for money, because Triplex plus VitalBiome, let's be honest, if you're not working the business, that could be a lot of money. So she says she would like to try the VitalBiome, and she thought about substituting her Probio 5 with the probiotic she already has. She wants to know, would that be acceptable? Or maybe what would be your suggestion of someone that really wants to try the new product but seriously can't afford all 4 of them?
I mean, if they've been on Probio 5 for a while, I think that that's okay for them to try that out. I just wouldn't start anybody new without being on Probio 5 first.
Okay. Can you take more than one VitalBiome a day? Another popular question floating around.
I mean, they have told us that it's not necessary, but y'all, there are probiotics that are out on the market that have 100 billion CFUs in them. So I can't speak to whether it would be more helpful, but I don't think it's going to hurt you.
Okay, I think we've kind of covered this, but I'm going to ask it. Someone, and I will say, I think it's the name of Slim, which I think we all agree we wish they would change to balance. Mm-hmm. But a lot of skinny girls don't want to take Slim because they don't want to lose weight. How do you explain the benefits of Slim as just something for their health, not necessarily that they need to, and for them, they say, oh, I have no health problems. You know that girl, Rachel. I'm skinny, I'm healthy, I don't want to mess anything up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think those are great where you can find testimonies from people that say, hey, I didn't need to lose weight, and I really thought that I was healthy, but I actually wasn't. I mean, we've got Rachael Rogers on our team, who was a fit girl who didn't think that she had any health issues whatsoever. Her biggest struggle was with her skin, and she didn't realize that all of that was because of poor gut health, or a big part of it was because of poor gut health. I think the other thing that you have to remember about Slim, and this really speaks to the difference in the way that our products are formulated, is that one of the things that it used to say it on the package. I can't remember if it does anymore. It only burns fat. It doesn't burn muscle, and it burns visceral fat. So which is like the deep fat that has so many negative health concerns associated with it. So you can take new Slim or old for that matter, and if you don't have weight to lose, it's not going to make you lose weight.
Okay, do you, and again, I think this is a popular question. She says someone's only taken one probiotic 5, which some people stick there, and but she was put on steroids and an antibiotic for yeast. So, we always wonder, okay, obviously I know if you're on an antibiotic, up your probiotic. But
if they put her on steroids and an antibiotic,
I don't know anything about steroids, but how would you up your probiotic? What's your recommendation?
First of all, you don't try to get rid of yeast with steroids and antibiotics. No, you don't. You use antifungals to get rid of yeast. And so I would, if they've only been on 1, I'd have them go to 2. If they're doing okay and they're feeling all right after a week, I'd go to 3. And I would get them to that probably 3 to 4 probiotic 5. Not as quickly as possible, because we don't want them to hate us because of die-off, but we want them to see some benefit.
Perfect. And does X Factor have calcium?
Yes, it does have calcium in it. It has calcium in it now, and it has chromium in it now. And so it has to be spaced out from thyroid meds now.
Okay. Let's see. Trying to see if I've missed any other questions. We asked the blood thinners. If they discolor or speckle due to humidity, does it lessen the effectiveness of the products? Very popular now.
Yeah, I just know that there have been some questions about like extreme heat, and that could, impact it. But that's part of the reason why they put the Vital Biome in that protective special bottle. But I don't know. You'd probably have to test from batch to batch to know if it was impacted.
Well, someone wants to know what has to be spaced from thyroid. And since you are the thyroid guru of Plexus, I'm going to let you explain thyroid in our products. And this is probably going to be our last question. I don't want to keep Rachael forever.
We'll end on a good note. My husband's like, come on. Okay, so here's the thing. In terms of thyroid medicines, there are 2 different classes of thyroid medicines. You have your synthroids, and you have your natural desiccated thyroid, or NDT meds. Synthetics are Synthroid, levothyroxine, Tyrosint. NDTs are Naturethroid, Westhroid, Armor, Acela MP, thyroid. So here's the deal. Anything that has calcium, iron, or estrogen in it. So those of you that maybe take even birth control, you may find this interesting. New X Factor does not have iron in it, but it does have calcium in it. Estrogen, calcium, and iron bind up thyroid hormone. So you have to keep any thyroid med that you're on. It doesn't matter if it's a synthetic or if it's a NDT. It must be kept separate by 4 hours in order to ensure that your body is able to actually get the thyroid hormone and that it doesn't get bound up by one of those. So the simplest switch, and visit with your physician about this, if you are on Synthroid, Tyrosint, levothyroxine, start taking it at bedtime. Keep it separate by 30 minutes from Probio 5 and BioCleanse and Mega X if you take those at nighttime. So take your Synthroid and then wait like 30 minutes and take the others. because it has an incredibly long half-life, and you're probably actually going to notice that you get more benefit from the medicine if you switch it to nighttime, because you're not getting the energy boost from it that you should be getting because you've been taking it in the morning, and that energy boost doesn't kick in for like 15 hours or something like that. So visit with your doctor about that. And if you do that, you're home free, because you can take your Slim as soon as you wake up in the morning with your Vital Biome, and then you can take your X Factor Plus after you've eaten breakfast. Easy peasy. If you are on a natural desiccated thyroid product like I am, your life just got more complicated, because we've always known that we needed to keep our thyroid meds separate from our Slim because of the chromium, just by like 2 hours. But now if we've got X Factor in there, now all of a sudden we've got this additional 4-hour chunk of time. So what I have found works best for me is and you could do it either way, and I'm still kind of experimenting, is if I wake up and I take my thyroid first thing in the morning, and then maybe around 10, I drink my Slim, and then at lunch, I take my X Factor Plus. I've separated out. I've protected my dose from any of the things that might bind it up. Or you could flip-flop it, and if you wanted to do your Slim and your X Factor, first thing in the morning, then you would need to wait till lunchtime to take your thyroid medicine.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Save that last clip because I get questions about thyroid medicine every week. So thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate you doing this for us. And if anyone's wondering, someone asked about your lashes. You can explain. They're beautiful. So
I have extensions, but they need to be filled right now. So that's sweet.
So, okay. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all.